How are we doing today, guys? I'm going to be recording a replay here of a 1v1 game here with Jori and Rune Diver. Really like this deck, and when I saw Dawts was hosting a game, I thought I would try to test my hand at playing this deck against one of his decks because he tends to play a very similar style to how this deck plays out. But as fate would have it, he's actually rocking Maelstrom Wanderer, and this game ends up being a little bit of a role reversal for when I am usually playing Dots, when I'm the one trying to push the pace and go off, and he's the one trying to play control, and I get to take his chair and he gets to take mine. Uh, so it uh, should be an interesting game. He's a really good deck builder. I don't think I've ever seen his Maelstrom Wanderer deck before, but I'm sure it's pretty good. Uh, so I'm going to go ahead and hop right into it here. My first hand here, it has a Treachery, a High Tide, a Lightning Bolt, and 4 lands. This is no good. It has no interaction for his deck, nothing to speed up my Jori N, um, nothing to get me rolling into the game. Too many lands. These cards are pretty much dead unless I get a combo card with a High Tide. The High Tide goes good with the Treachery, yes, but unless I can stop his tempo to slow the game down a little bit, being able to steal Wanderer is a decent thing to have, but not until you've got the card advantage rolling. So I think this is an easy pitch. Um, this hand has a lot more going for it. It only has the 2 lands, but I do get a Scry, so it's a little lighter on lands for sure, and mana sources in general. However, I've got some nice ability to craft here with the Impulse. Snap and Snapcaster Mage are both fairly quick, and they also happen to combo together really well. Being able to put the Snapcaster Mage back in your hand if you need it. I still have a steal effect for his Maelstrom Wanderer. I don't want to go down to 5. I don't think I can get a whole lot better than this. He keeps his 7, but that's perfectly fine. I see it is at Signet on top. I'm definitely going to put that on top. We need mana sorely, and if we can get another land off the top, we can potentially even draw into cantripping off Jori on the first turn. He is on the play, so he just plays a Flooded Strand and passes. I'm going to go ahead and draw my Signet, and I'm just going to play an island and pass. Always good to open with the basic in this deck. We're only 2 colors, and there's always the threat of Wasteland, which he in fact gets this game. So I'm happy that I chose not to play the Misty Rainforest first. No reason to in this deck whatsoever. He goes ahead and plays a Signet, and I'm thinking this is not looking very good. He's already got ramp out the gate. He has a Wasteland. I'm low on lands. This is going to be difficult. And then, lo and behold, Mana Drain off the top of my deck. That is an absolute kick in the nuts for him. That is a top deck that pretty much changes this game. It's definitely the most powerful card that I have in my hand. And it allows me to set the tempo for the entire game, this Mana Drain, because he's going to be going to 4 mana. That deck typically wants to ramp. He's on the play. They actually play a lot of 4cc ramp in general that ramps 2 to try to get to that 7 mana for Wanderer. So I'm fully expecting a Sky Shroud claim or something like that. And he's definitely not just going to pass back, not playing a control deck. I cannot see him doing that. And even if he does, I've got this nice Impulse right next to this Mana Drain, so I can go ahead and dig for my other land if I need it. So I'm going to actually not cast the Izzet Signet. And as well, I'm going to be able to use the Mana Drain mana to cast the Izzet Signet behind the Jori N, using the colorless from Jori N, and then Signet, and then Cantrip. So we can tempo him, and then get our game plan rolling, and hop right back into this game. So excellent top deck. And right as planned, he plays a Hedron Archive. Not a Sky Shroud Claim, but essentially Sky Shroud Claim. Same thing I was just talking about. So this played exactly into what I was hoping would happen. I'm going to go ahead and get the Volcanic Island. His Wasteland is tapped, and I want to be able to cast that Jori N for sure. And get the cantrip effect. So it's slightly greedy, but I have a feeling I'm going to want that red source anyway, even with the Izzet Signet. I want to be able to cantrip to find more lands, so it's not necessarily greedy, because if I don't find more lands off the top, I'm going to be down a land on the same critical turns here coming up anyway. Sapphire Medallion off the top is another excellent draw here, because I have 3 cards that cost 1 in the blue in my hand. They're all going to be massively improved by that Sapphire Medallion, so I'm drawing really well here. We're going to go ahead and play the Signet. We draw our own Wasteland, so we get our land right on time. And we're going to play the Sapphire Medallion to set up our next turn. I'm going to play the Wasteland, and I want to really keep his tempo down. I want to slow him down as much as possible. And I think for a long time about simply wastelanding his Wasteland because I don't want to get wastelanded. But at the same time, I could potentially mana screw him depending on what his hand is. And since he's got that splitter land that lets him get lots and lots of blue-green, I guess it would have made more sense to kill the red. I actually, when I was playing the game, I wasn't even thinking about this Signet he had over here tapping for green. So that was probably the wrong land to kill. But just killing a land in general is definitely the right play. So slight misplay, I think, but not a huge deal. In fact, he's got a breeding pool in his hand, so definitely the wrong land to kill, but not a big problem. Probably didn't have any effect on the game. I don't think he plays. I don't think he plays a single red card, so I don't think it has an effect on the game. And Jace the Mind Sculptor, bam, he brings it right back. What an excellent card to have. He gets to kick my Jori in right off the board, and the tempo is going back a little bit in his favor now. And I miss on my land drop here, and since I used a Wasteland, he could potentially even Wasteland me. I'm in a tight spot for mana, however, the Sapphire Medallion is going to allow me to use this Instant Signet to play the Jori in, as well as an impulse to try to find that land and draw an extra card. So I'm going to be up on cards him right away. Mana Leak, not bad. I want to draw that card early against this deck because he's going to get a lot of mana, and even though he's playing a lot of big things, this card will be dead later in the game. And I'm hoping to find mana here. I don't. So that is a problem. His Wasteland is now looking a little scarier. Luckily, that Sapphire Medallion is keeping it in check, not to mention the fact that he probably needs a lot of mana to cast a few cards he has in his hand, as well as his Wanderer. I put some thought into getting the Temporal Fissure, because that could potentially finish him, but I don't really have the setup in my hand to do anything with it. So the only two cards I was considering at all were Remand and Temporal Fissure. There's no way I'm going to grab Helm of Awakening and help him out ramp-wise. Mox Diamond with no lands is obviously no good. I decide the Remand here is, when I'm crunched on mana, he could potentially Wasteland me, and I have no setup for the Temporal Fissure. The more and more I think about it, the more it's just simply an easy decision. The Remand is just really, really good here with what I've got set up. 1 mana spell with the Sapphire Medallion in play still. So that is nice. And playing the Jori in is going to force his Jace to keep bouncing it unless he wants to lose it. So he's not going to get that Brainstorm ability and catch back up. He plays another ramp spell, plays the 3 visits, and I'm expecting him to Wasteland me here after he makes that land drop because he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. Now, since that's not a land, it would turn his Wanderer off most likely. It's most likely a hit card, just based on how he's played his hand. So if he Wastelands, he's losing the option to Wander, but he could easily top deck a land, and he's got that Jace on board. I'm really surprised that he doesn't Wasteland me right here. I really don't know why he doesn't Wasteland the Volcanic Island right now. I can't really say. Time Spiral off the top is not really doing me any favors. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to Snapcaster Mage for that impulse to dig for a land. And if he Wastelands here, I'm just going to tap it in response, obviously. And for some reason he doesn't. I should have even probably led with tapping the Volcanic into the Izzet Signet, to be honest. Another slight misplay, because I don't want him to Wasteland. I really am interested. Maybe I should just ask him, since we do talk quite a bit. So then I go ahead and I find my island, which is exactly what I'm looking for here. I don't want red source, obviously. This is a mostly blue deck. So we get our island up, and the plan here is to snap the Snapcaster back to my hand, untap both my islands, and then I give some thought to playing the Jori in and keeping a single counter spell up. But playing the Jori in isn't going to give me a cantrip here. It threatens the Jace, this is true. But there's a chance that I need both those counter spells. If he casts Maelstrom Wanderer, I have the Sower to take the Wanderer, but if he gets say double time warps or something ridiculous like that, I could just be dead. So I decide that it's a safer play to just keep both the counter spells open. And it would be a little greedy to play Jori when I've got that medallion feeding me so well currently. So he gets to activate his Jace for Brainstorm. I'm fully expecting Wanderer and hoping to mana leak something here, and then steal his Wanderer would be pretty nice. And then potentially he's locked out of cards, but he still has that Jace to craft as well. I think it's going to happen, but instead he plays a Tezzeret, which I'm actually totally fine with. I'm going to go ahead and Mana Leak the Tezzeret, just get rid of that out of the way. I put some thought into playing the Remand just because I haven't found my land yet, but I want to get the leak out of the hand since it could potentially not work if he draws something else. And I'll just hold on to the Remand. And I also think for a while about whether or not I want to use a Snapcaster again on my spells, but I decide that I can just get rid of the Jace here, and it's worth getting rid of the Jace. So I just snap nothing, just to pretty much essentially dodge the bounce, or not dodge the bounce, rather just kill the Jace before he gets to use it again. Pretty much just trading the card Snapcaster could get off of the graveyard with his Brainstorm, considering he's so light on cards. So I'm going to go ahead and swing first. He still isn't wastelanding me, which is surprising. But then again, he's still on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. He hasn't found another land with that Jace. And he put 2 cards down, so he isn't going to be finding land off the top of the deck. And because we got Jace out of the way, it's going to make it incentivize him to not use that wasteland, which is nice. Now afterwards, we can play our Jori in again, and then we can just camp behind the Remand. So he goes and taps. I'm thinking Wanderer, but no, he doesn't play Wanderer. He goes for Consecrated Sphinx, which is perfectly fine by me. Yet again, not opening up my Sower Temptation Steel here, but also not giving himself the chance to maybe double hit good cards. Even Ramp isn't bad here for him, because if he hits Ramp and gets the Wanderer out, I mean, he has access to the Wasteland, though he doesn't, because he doesn't know I can steal his Wanderer, right? But he just keeps holding it in his hand. The Remand hits me a real counterspell, which is excellent. And it's one that untaps. I get a Lightning Bolt to go with it, so I'm just going to swing in. Now I can cantrip when I rewind, and now I'm yet again in the position where I'm thinking he's going to cast Wanderer, and I can just kill his gas spell with my counterspell. But yet again, he opts for the Consecrated Sphinx again, so I'm obviously going to rewind that. That would be absolutely horrible. And then we get an untap, and then Bolt for value to draw a card. Boom. And we hit our land. So at this point, the Wasteland doesn't scare us as much. Treasure Cruise off the top is nice. We're going to go ahead and play that, as well as Goblin Electromancer to draw an extra card off of it. I really could have delved an extra card. It didn't really matter. I probably should have cruised before the Electromancer, but just habit has it that I want to be efficient with my mana, though it probably didn't matter here. Get Mana Leak out of there. We don't want to see that again. Wasteland, considering I have the Spiral, getting Wasteland back wouldn't be horrible, but when I Spiral out, I don't really want to be drawing lands on that turn, typically. So I kind of just want to get all the lands out of there, and then the Mana Leak is obviously the next worst card, I think. And then as well as Lightning Bolt also being not so good, with Rewind, Mana Drain, Snap being the obvious best 3 left. So we draw a Wheel, and we also draw a Mountain, Mox Opal, and a Capture of Jingzhou, which is excellent. The Capture of Jingzhou will allow us to maybe finish this game. However, we did not hit a counterspell. So if he goes Wanderer here, if he finally decides to pull the trigger and he hits his own extra turn spell, we could be in a world of trouble. And he doesn't. He plays Acidic Slime. And I'm really happy that he did. This would have been the perfect turn for him to finally cast it, though there's no way he could have known that. And I kind of do a little fake having the counter poker thing here, where I sit there for a second deciding whether or not I want to counter the Acidic Slime. And I obviously don't want to counter the Acidic Slime because I don't have a counter. He kills the best card, obviously, and the Sapphire Medallion finally gets that out of his way, which also would have turned off of my Mox Opal's ability to tap for mana, since I now only have 2 artifacts. However, I draw this Lotus Petal. And with the Lotus Petal, I can now extra turn, draw an extra card off Jori. I see a Feast or Famine, so now I can get this Opal back online my next turn with the Feast or Famine. So I'm actually going to go ahead and use a Sower to steal his 6 slime, so I can actually swing in instead of getting traded with, potentially losing my Jori. Now I can swing in for 6, and then the following turn swing for 12. So he is getting really close to being dead. Extra turn finds High Tide. Disgusting. The High Tide alone will set up a decent Mind's Desire with the Sword of Feast or Famine. I get a cantrip in between. I find a Serum Visions. Gets another Storm. It doesn't draw a card, but it does hit my land drop, which gives me access to even more mana. Go ahead and play that tapped. Now we get a Feast or Famine to untap. Swing them down to 8. And now we have Mind's Desire plus Time Spiral. There are a lot of ways we could finish this game. We could hit the Temporal Manipulation, another extra turn spell, or even just counter spells with our board state would probably do the trick. We flip a Mana Crypt and a Ponder, and the writing's on the wall, and he scoops it up. So I had a lot of fun playing this game. It was kind of interesting just playing the opposite roles, since typically he's the control player, and I'm the more combo-y player. So I hope you enjoyed this game.